Oh, when it all falls down. Yo, yo, you guys know I had to cover this segment. Our friends Stephen A. Smith, Magic Johnson, First Take. This Lakers situation, man. You guys know I was gonna do a video on this. If you've been following this channel, if you've been following my platform, before I was doing videos, when I was doing Twitter threads, when I was doing rants on social media, I was telling you guys this Laker team is a disaster. It was gonna be a disaster. Um, I told you guys from game one when I saw Russell Westbrook versus the Warriors and how the Warriors were scheming and playing defense versus the Lakers. This just wasn't going to fit. I gave the Lakers the benefit of the doubt in the offseason, slight benefit of the doubt, and I said, well, let's see how LeBron works this. Let's see how AD works this. Maybe they talk to Russ. Maybe Russ will humble himself a little bit. I didn't think they would win no championship, but 538 had them as the ninth seed before the season starts. 538, the analytical group. And I thought that sounded about right. I was thinking like they were a seventh seed the year before. I was thinking maybe the Lakers would be like an eighth seed this year. Ninth seed sounded about right. You know what I mean? Play-in tournament. These dudes didn't even make the play-in tournament. I saw something on Twitter earlier today, like the Lakers with Lonzo Ball rookie year before LeBron came. That Laker team with like Brook Lopez, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle. That Laker team had a better record than the Laker team this year. Like after the All-Star break, the Lakers were a bottom 3 or 4 team in the NBA. Like there were teams that were going out their way trying to tank that had a better record than this Laker team. So it was pathetic. It was a disaster. At the time that I'm recording this, Frank Vogel has already been fired. Magic and Stephen A., just for context, during this video, they're going to talk about Frank Vogel. He's going to get fired, but at the time he hadn't got fired. So we now know that he's gone. They're talking about Nick Nurse, Quinn Snyder. They've named a couple guys. If those guys are smart, they're not coming to LA. Quinn Snyder can come to the Lakers because it seems like the Jazz are falling apart as well. But if Nick Nurse is a smart man, he would not come to the Lakers. He has a good thing going in Toronto. They won a championship a few years ago. All they need to do is add one more piece, and they're going to be a great squad. But anyway, I'm going to let this video play. Let's get into it.
First of all, he's got to get healthy and stay on the court. Okay? That's number one. Accountability is big here. And the Lakers all season have not taken accountability.
Couldn't agree with that more. And as you guys can see, it says fake show. Yeah, everything about this team is fake. There's no accountability. You have a coach who doesn't really want to take accountability for it, and I don't blame him. He's the one person who's not taking accountability that I don't blame. I do not blame Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel went against Russell Westbrook on the championship run that the Lakers went on in the bubble. He went against Russell Westbrook, and his schemes that he had going against Westbrook were amazing. Like the defense that he played against Westbrook, the defense that he played against Harden. They beat the Rockets in 5. The Rockets won game 1, and the Lakers went on to gentlemen sweep them because once Frank Vogel saw what they were working with, he was able to take them down. Frank Vogel is a great defensive coach. So I have no issue with Frank Vogel not taking accountability for it. I see a lot of people are saying Frank Vogel should only get 10% of the blame, or Frank Vogel should only get 20% of the blame. Like, people think that they're doing a Frank Vogel a favor by saying he should only take 10 or 20%. I give Frank Vogel, like, negative a billion% blame. Like, I give him 0.000% blame. Like, 0.00, like, he is not at fault in this at all. He is a great coach. He will land somewhere else, and he will do just fine. This would just be a blimp on his career. Like, he's an amazing head coach. We saw what he did with Indy when he had Paul George and Roy Hibbert and them. Like, he's a really good coach. Anthony Davis not taking accountability, just pointing at the injury bug, blaming everything on injuries. At some point, Anthony Davis, you have to look at your own body, look at your training, look at what you're doing. Something's wrong. You're not doing something right. Or maybe you're just too fragile. Maybe, they just can't count on you. The only time they can count on you is in a bubble run where there's a lot of time off and you're able to rest, and that's the only way you're able to play a full season. So no accountability from Anthony Davis. We know LeBron James. I don't have to get into it too much. We know LeBron's just going to blame deflect. We know the media is going to blame deflect for LeBron. We know LeBron James is just an angel saint. There's never anything wrong with anything LeBron James does. And then we have Laker management who's also pushing the blame. They want to point the blame at LeBron. LeBron and Clutch want to point the blame at them. Everybody wants to point the blame at Vogel. Russ really wants to point the blame at Vogel. So there's just a lot of dynamics, and you know, to put things short, to put things short, we could just say there's a lot of kids in the room, a bunch of kids and no adults.
Whether that's individual play, whether that's on the defensive end, whether that's playing together, Stephen A. So my problem is with them saying, making all these excuses. So we're making excuses again. Quit making excuses. This thing did not work out. The parts did not fit. And last but not least, it's not all on Frank Vogel. We know he's going to get fired. We know that. If the players don't say, I got to get better next season, because Stephen A., they coming back with the same team, not the same 9 role players, but the core 3 is probably going to have to come back, because you can't
You cannot let Russell Westbrook come back. Like, you cannot do it. LeBron James, I understand. LeBron James is, he's fallen off a little bit. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy, but I understand that you have to roll with those 2 guys, but you cannot bring Russell Westbrook back. Like, that's the one thing that Matt Johnson has been saying. He says this a bunch in this segment, but, like, you cannot bring Russell Westbrook back. You simply cannot bring Russell Westbrook back. He does not fit with these guys. These guys, they don't even vibe with him. They don't even gel with him. Like, we're seeing the quote today, people talking about let Russ be Russ, and Russ was like, let's be real. That wasn't what it was. He said it straight up. Like, they're sitting next to each other, and Russ isn't sitting with them. Like, Russ knows the vibes. Russ knows LeBron and AD ain't really fucking with him, and Russ isn't in a rush to really stay. Like, he's ready to get up out of there. He hasn't had a good experience, and in Russ's mind, he feels like, I'm a baller. I'm still a guy that can get 20, 10, and 10, because he looks at things from a statistical standpoint. So he's like, I can still get 20, 10, and 10. I can go somewhere else and turn that shit up. Like, I can go somewhere like a Sacramento or an Indy or somewhere that they haven't had like a whole lot of success. I can go there and I could turn them up. I could maybe force them into a play-in game just off the strength of me balling out. You know what I mean? Like, Westbrook still looks at himself as a player who can do that for a team. And honestly, he probably can. Like, if you throw Westbrook on like a shitty team where everything revolves around Westbrook, he could probably carry them into a position to be like a 10 seed and compete. Even though the West and the East are like equally stacked right now. Like, the West, there's a bunch of squads in the West. There's a bunch of squads in the East. It's like evenly dispersed right now. So it's hard to really say that he could do that. But I mean, him and Beal did it for the Wizards the year before, so it's possible. But I just don't think, long story short, I just don't think that you can bring Westbrook back. If you can trade Russ and you could get Brogdon and Buddy Hield in exchange for like Russ and THT and somebody else and maybe a first round pick, like whatever you got to do, you just got to get Russ out of there. You got to surround LeBron with shooters and defenders like they did the season before where they were the 7th seed. You got to surround LeBron with shooters and defenders so LeBron can do his thing, but he can have guys that fit in well with him, guys that aren't too demanding. That's what LeBron likes. That's what worked for him when Kyrie left and he was stuck with the scrubs. He actually had some decent players around him and traded them for the scrubs. So you put LeBron in a situation like that, and then whenever AD is healthy and available, because that's not a guarantee, but whenever he is, that squad will actually be solid. If you're out there with a LeBron, AD, you have a shot blocker, a rim roller like a JaVale McGee at center, you pick up in free agency, and then the other 2 guys on the court are like a Buddy Hield and a Brogdon, like that's cool. Or even if you have like a Austin Reeves and a Buddy Hield, like that's cool. That squad ain't all that, but I mean, you should make the play-in tournament next year. Shit.
Round pick trying to trade Westbrook. You just can't do that because now we don't have any more first round picks. So they're going to have to say, you know what, we got to work this thing out. And Russell's got to look up and say, the last 3 weeks I've been playing pretty good. You got to play like that going into next season. Magic, I'm glad you're here, my brother. It's always good to see you. Let me say this, man. When I hold Frank Vogel accountable, I'm not blaming him. That's right. For the Lakers' demise. Please don't get me wrong. LeBron James got his fingerprints written all over this, regardless of the numbers he's been putting up as an individual player. We got to remember what LeBron James' greatest gift has always been prior to this year. It's maximizing the potential of the pieces around him to facilitate winning.
Is that really true? Like, has LeBron really? Like, that's just such a false narrative. When LeBron James wins championships, it's because he has the most talented squad. Like, when he wins a championship, it's in the bubble, which is a great circumstance for him. It's a great situation for him. And he has Anthony Davis and these guys all buying in. He has Rondo making plays. He has shooters surrounding him, defenders surrounding him. And they're going against what? A Denver team that was just a year too soon. He's going against what? The Houston Rockets with Russell Westbrook. We're talking about Russell Westbrook's struggles. They had Russell Westbrook. Like, he's going against a Portland team with Dame that had to fight and claw and beg just to be, in the bubble and compete for a chance to even make the playoffs. They had to go on a crazy run just to get into the playoffs. Like, they gentlemen sweeped all those teams. And then they get to the finals, and the Heat just has so many injuries. If the Heat were fully healthy and got a shot at the Lakers, that would have been really interesting. But the Heat just has so many injuries. The Lakers caught them in a good spot, and Jimmy Butler still willed the Heat to a few wins. So it's tough. Like, it's tough to really say that LeBron has just elevated the people around him. Like, LeBron is a great passer, and LeBron draws attention. So, the guys around him. It eases it up for them a little bit, but does he necessarily make them better? I don't know. We see guys like Kevin Love put up better numbers when they're not around LeBron James. We see Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade put up better numbers when they're away from LeBron James. We've seen Kyrie Irving put up the same numbers whether LeBron is there or not. So it's like, I think if you're a catch and shoot 3-point guy, or if you're a defender who, wouldn't really get run on another squad, you can team up with LeBron, and LeBron, you can just be the role player while LeBron works out and just, controls the game. But if you're a player who actually has game and who wants to fit into a system and play his role to help the team facilitate, to facilitate wins for the team, playing with LeBron James doesn't really work for you. LeBron James, dude, his championships against the Spurs, when he beat the Spurs, the very next year, they ran it back versus the Spurs, and the Spurs blitzed them. The Spurs whooped them. You got a lucky shot from Ray Allen to go in, and okay, yeah, that's luck, but LeBron had great stats in that series. Okay, whatever. Play them the next year, you get dogged. Play them the next year, you get tossed. You're playing the Warriors. The Warriors are injury-plagued. Harrison Barnes can't make a shot. Everybody's struggling. They're choking. The refs are ejecting Steph Curry out of Game 6, and Draymond Green's getting suspended for Game 5, and you beat the Warriors in the finals. Whoop-de-doo. Guess what? You play them the next year, they replace Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is your matchup. Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving is a wash. That's a draw. Kevin Love's production and Klay Thompson's production is a wash. It's a draw. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they had more veteran players on that bench. They had, J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson's. All that shit was even. When you look at Ty Lue and how Ty Lue has turned out, you could argue Ty Lue might be a better coach than Steve Kerr. I think he is. But even if you don't, it's close. They're neck and neck with each other. They're in the same room as far as coaching goes. They're on the same level, right? So at that point, it's just LeBron versus Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant thoroughly outplayed him in that finals. He outplayed him statistically. He outplayed him in terms of efficiency. And when it mattered most, he hit the big shots, and he hit them over him. KD hit those big shots over LeBron James. So I don't know if LeBron James has necessarily made the players around him better. I think that's a false narrative. I think LeBron just, when he has a great team, he's able to win. When he has the best team, when LeBron James has the best, most talented team in the league, he normally doesn't fuck it up. He normally takes that team and wins the championship. But when he doesn't have a stacked squad, when he doesn't have a stacked deck, he does not get the job done. Simple and plain. Examples of that are this season when they weren't able to even make the play-in tournament. Last season when they got knocked out by the Phoenix Suns in easy fashion, and the only times they had a chance against the Suns were when AD was playing. When it was LeBron out there, he wasn't really being a difference maker. We know the Lakers' first year, LeBron's first year with the Lakers, they didn't do anything. They were actually doing cool until Christmas when LeBron got hurt, and then when LeBron came back, he just did not have it. He just did not have it. we know that LeBron's first year in Miami was an utter disaster. Like Miami, he had the best team for 4 years in a row and only got 2 championships out of it, and one of them was the Ray Allen shot. Like, to his credit, the first championship he ever won, that first one with Miami, it was very dominant. Like they were crushing it. But that second year, that Ray Allen shot, yeah, two rings in that 4 year period of time with the best team in the league. That's tough. And we know he didn't get any championships before that. We know he struggled with Boston before that. You can give him a pass for that, whatever the case is. He was supposed to get there in 2009. He was supposed to beat the Orlando Magic and Dwight Howard. He was supposed to face Kobe in the NBA Finals so we could get that epic Kobe versus LeBron championship. And LeBron failed to hold up his end of the bargain. Kobe was there waiting for him, and Kobe and the Lakers were going to beat the Cavaliers that year. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, I just not to go too much on a rant, but LeBron James making the players around him better. LeBron James just being this great all-around basketball. He's so much of a great. We hear this all the time. He's so much of a better all-around basketball player than Michael Jordan. Everybody improves around LeBron. He makes guys like. It's just a false narrative. If you really want to get into it and really look at it, it's a false narrative, clearly.
He hasn't done that. We can speculate as to why that is, but nevertheless, that's on him because he was the guy that went to them and said, I want Russell Westbrook. Not DeMar DeRozan, not Buddy Hield, Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people are saying that LeBron wanted Russell Westbrook to prove that he could win with Russell Westbrook, even though other people like Kevin Durant and Harden and them couldn't win with Russell Westbrook. I don't really think that's what it was. I think LeBron had like this grand idea that if he has Russell Westbrook can hold it down in the regular season and LeBron can take nights off. And when LeBron and Westbrook both play, they're just both so dominant that they can take over games and they'll just figure it out. And maybe Westbrook will humble himself to LeBron a little bit. But Westbrook came in there like, I'm the dude from LA. I'm lit. I'm going to do it my way. This is about to be my show because LeBron looking a little washed and AD's always hurt. So I'm coming to the Lakers to save them. That's how Westbrook was seeing it. So, Westbrook's tone deaf. And LeBron, he was a little bit over his head with that idea that he was going to bring Westbrook in as like a relief pitcher to hold it down during the regular season, save him some innings. I really think that's how LeBron saw it. But the truth is, they weren't winning games whether it was just Westbrook out there, just LeBron out there, or both of them out there together. They just couldn't get the job done. And for what it's worth, side note, people are talking about DeMar DeRozan now. Like, yeah, the Lakers could have had DeMar DeRozan, but they went and got Westbrook instead. Like, nobody was thinking of DeMar DeRozan the way we think of DeMar DeRozan now. Like, DeMar DeRozan was kind of in the MVP conversation this year. DeMar DeRozan wasn't really all that during his time in San Antonio, and before that, he was known as a choker with the Toronto Raptors. So we weren't thinking of DeMar DeRozan in that light. DeMar DeRozan was actually the guy that got traded for Kawhi Leonard, and Kawhi Leonard then won that city a championship when DeMar DeRozan couldn't get over the LeBron James hump. So they were calling Toronto LeBronto. Let's not forget that. They was calling Toronto LeBronto when DeMar DeRozan was in Toronto. So, DeMar DeRozan, he's been a guy that has struggled in the postseason, and he was a guy that kind of was going under the radar. And he rejuvenated his career. Chicago has been the best thing for him. Chicago has embraced him. They're going to get dogged out by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first round. They don't stand a chance versus the Bucks. They'll be lucky if they win 2 games. I really don't see it being anything more than a gentleman's sweep. But yeah, he really rejuvenated his career in Chicago. So people acting now with 2020 hindsight, like, yeah, how could you pick Westbrook over DeMar DeRozan? Like, nah, Westbrook and DeMar DeRozan were kind of in the same category before the season started.
LeBron James' fingerprints are written all over this. There's no doubt. Anthony Davis.
And neither of them shoot threes. Like, just to, get back to what I was saying, DeMar DeRozan and Westbrook, they both don't shoot threes. So it's not like, oh, one of them's just such a better fit than the other one would be for LeBron. Like, neither of them really shoot threes. Both of them want the ball in their hands. Like, neither of them are really the ideal fit for the Lakers. The ideal fit for the Lakers would have been to keep all those defenders and slashers that they had, the Alex Caruso, KCP, Kuzma, all of them. It would have been best to keep those guys and, like a Dwight Howard. Well, Dwight Howard's kind of washed, but like, and they do have Dwight Howard, but like a keeping JaVale McGee, it would have been better to keep those kind of guys, that like core. It would have been better to keep those guys and to add like a Buddy Hield and maybe like somebody else, like good complementary players, and just run it back with Anthony Davis being healthy. That would have been their best bet.
You talked about he's got to stay on the court. Well, let's be specific about that. You have players who play in the off season, but do they really take care of themselves to better position themselves for what's coming down the pike? Mm-hmm. See, LeBron does that. Right. Other players don't. Some people look at Anthony Davis, and even though you'll look at him and sometimes you say he's in shape, sometimes you'll say he isn't. What's undeniable is that from a strength and conditioning standpoint, you're not doing something right in the offseason to get yourself ready for the upcoming season. That's a problem. Number 3, we look at...
I honestly think part of it is just bad genetics. Like, I don't think Anthony Davis has the best genetics to stay healthy. Just his body makeup is a little funny. Like, he just doesn't have the best... He just doesn't have the best genetics. He's not like a LeBron James who's just built to last. Like, Anthony Davis, he just was never built to last.
Russell Westbrook, he doesn't fit, but Russell Westbrook's got to look at himself because a vast majority of this season, again, when I made the statement, that's the first time I looked at Russell Westbrook and say he didn't deserve to be a Laker. I want you to hear what I was saying. Magic, I wasn't talking about his play on the court. Right. I was talking about the dude that went up to in the press conference and said, I have no expectation. Yep. You can't be a Laker.
Yeah, that was pathetic. That was a fucking joke, honestly. Like, he was getting his panties in a bunch, and you were just acting like a softie up there talking about, tell me what my expectations were. You're saying I had expectations. Well, newsflash, I didn't have any. Trick question, I didn't have any expectations. Ask me what my expectations are. I didn't have any. Like, dude, shut up. We can tell by the way that you've been playing that you had no expectations. That's why we've been calling you Russell Westbrook. That's why they're calling you Westbrook. And that's why you fighting fans, getting hella emotional, talking about death threats. Dude, it's because you've been playing like you got no expectations. Tone deaf.
And ever utter the words out of your mouth, you have no expectations. I'm talking to an all-time greatest Laker. This man, Kobe Bryant, debate it all you want to. We know who this man is. 5-time champion, wearing the purple and gold.
Magic Johnson is the greatest Laker, but, I'm biased. I grew up in the Kobe era, and, Kobe, it's hard to say that somebody is the greatest Laker. I grew up in the Kobe era, so I'm leaning Kobe, but, this channel, this platform is all about being objective, so Magic Johnson, greatest Laker.
I don't even want to get into how you was feeling when you heard Russell Westbrook say, I have no expectations as a Laker. I called you. That's so right. Exactly. It's like, what? What do you mean you have no expectations? You can't say that. But my last point is Vogel. And here's where I would challenge you on this. And I would challenge Vogel respectfully. Frank Vogel is a champion. Frank Vogel has had 6 winning seasons. Frank Vogel was known as a defensive mind when he was coaching in Indiana and when they were challenging Miami for supremacy in the Eastern Conference. Frank Vogel is to be respected. I think this man deserves to be a head coach in the National Basketball Association. I'm talking about this situation that's likely going to return its core. Right. It is clear they tuned him out. Right. It is clear they have not gone all out for him. And when you have that going on as your backdrop, I'm saying we got Magic Johnson courtside at NBA Countdown calling it. We got James Worthy doing post-game, not knowing what to do with himself, trying to find the words. Okay, we got Hall of Famers all over the place that are looking at this dysfunctional disaster known as the Los Angeles Lakers, and they are saying, what the hell is going on? If I can't look at the head coach and you can't find a way to stop the bleeding, what am I supposed to do with you? You're 16 games under 500, Magic. I would have replaced Frank Vogel before the trading deadline expired just to salvage, try to see what I could peel out of them this season. Well, that's it. Well, I think if Jason...
Yeah, but, for anybody who's questioning Frank Vogel or putting blame on Frank Vogel, what would you have done differently? What could Frank Vogel really do differently? Just look at the roster. Look at the makeup of the roster. They don't have defenders. They don't have shooters. Their star players are brittle. Their star players aren't the best decision makers. Like, the guys don't fit well together. What could he have done? Like, what what did Frank Vogel do this season where it's like, man, Frank Vogel should have did this instead of this? Like, when I watch certain coaches, like Steve Kerr gets praise and stuff like that, I watch every single Warrior game. The Warrior rotations sometimes are disgusting. Like, the lineup and the rotations that he puts out there sometimes, they're just disgusting. They're terrible. But to Steve Kerr's credit, I know that he's just trying shit out in the regular season, so I don't make too much of a big deal about it. But I see people praise Steve Kerr and stuff like that, but people are getting on Frank Vogel. What could Frank Vogel have really done differently? Like, what are people looking at when they're watching Laker games and saying, Frank Vogel messed up here. Frank Vogel should have did this. Like, I've never watched a Laker game this season and felt like, what is Frank Vogel doing? Not even this season. Since Frank Vogel has been with the Lakers, I have not watched the Lakers and been like, why is Frank Vogel doing this? Never, never. He's always put them in the best position, and it was just a matter of if the guys were good enough to win a championship that year or not. Simple and plain.
When Kidd was sitting there, that probably would have happened. Okay, right? But who's going to replace him if they do that, right? Replace him mid-season. Mm-hmm. And I would say this. Somebody's got to take the blame for this mess. It's a mess. So somebody's got to take the blame. So you know Vogel's going to take some of this blame. No question. Right? They're going to point the finger at him. And this is what's really bothers me, Molly and Stephen A. This season was never about winning. In terms of, I've never seen the Laker team lose all these close games in the fourth quarter. We couldn't win. And so we got Russell, who's going to go into the Hall of Fame. LeBron going to be in the Hall of Fame. AD's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Carmelo Anthony's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And you mean to tell me we can't win close games? Friday night against the Pelicans was a big game for the Lakers. That's right. How we lose that game at home, and we're up 20-something, first of all. Mm-hmm. Then we're up 7 in the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game, and we couldn't close it out. Yeah.
LeBron James cannot be the closer for a basketball team. Like, people have known this for a long time, but I'm talking about right now at the stage that LeBron is in his career. The first 3 quarters, teams will allow LeBron James to score however he wants. If he wants to shoot 3-pointers, if he wants to shoot those mid-ranges, those turnarounds over the defender, if he wants to try to bully his way to the rim a little bit, they'll let him do that all he wants the first 3 quarters and see how effective it is. Because if you guys have noticed, there was a time in LeBron's career, really his whole career during his prime, where he was getting these dunks and fast breaks and attacking the basket and finishing over multiple defenders. It was like over double teams and triple teams and all eyes on him, and it was very impressive stuff that he was doing. Now when he's attacking the basket, like, the Celtics will leave Al Horford on an island versus LeBron James, and they'll make sure nobody's getting backdoor cuts or anything like that. Like, they're locking in on all the other guys, and they'll let LeBron go one-on-one with Al Horford, and LeBron won't beat him. Like, LeBron won't get past him and get to the basket. Like, that's what teams have done versus LeBron this season and last season. He lost that quick first step where he could blow by guys. Now, if you're smaller than him, really he wants a smaller guy on him, so that way he can try to post you up and shoot that mid-range turnaround, or so that way he can just try to, shoulder you and take you to the cup. That's what LeBron wants to do now. When you put a bigger guy on LeBron, a stronger guy on LeBron, a longer guy on LeBron, LeBron has a hard time getting around those guys because he doesn't have that burst anymore. So the first 3 quarters, we're just going to play him straight up, and we're not going to let him allow his teammates to get involved. And then in the fourth quarter, his legs are going to die out a little bit because he's older and because his body he can't carry teams the same way that he used to. And his teammates aren't going to be involved in the flow of the offense, so they're going to be cold. And now, LeBron, you're going to have to try to beat us in the fourth quarter with all the odds stacked against you. And he's never been, he's not a natural scorer in the sense of having a bag on the perimeter. He's a natural scorer as far as attacking the basket, but like I said, that athleticism and some of those traits, they're not there the same way that they used to be. So he's not naturally just going to create and do the craziest shit on the perimeter. So it's like they fell for the trap every single game. Like, okay, LeBron, you can have 30 through the first 3 quarters and you guys can be down 8. And then in the fourth quarter, your teammates are just going to be cold, out of a rhythm, and you're going to have to try to fight the fatigue and carry them to coming back from down 8 to winning the game. No, you're going to go from down 8 to down 16, and the game's just going to end like that.
That bothers me. And I'm going to tell you something that I haven't said. This is
and I have one question for
I'm going to say this to you. I'm going to say this because I've said this on many occasions, and I do it with a smile on my face because everybody knows how I love to live my life. I love my social life. Okay? So if you in South Beach, that matters.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
You know, city, Toronto, when the weather's warm, that matters.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
LA, it matters. And what I'm saying is this: I believe that when the Lakers won the championship, a whole bunch of cats got comfortable.
Yeah.
It's LA.
Okay.
We it. And let me tell you something. You know this because you lived in LA.
Yeah.
Of course you know this, and I've learned this during my time in LA. Okay.
Who lets this man at the
Yeah.
house?
It's just a different flavor, a different
Of course.
feel. The sun shines a little different. The weather seems a little bit better. The atmosphere, the
Yeah.
vibe in LA is different when the Lakers are winning and they're relevant.
Well, what Stephen A. Smith was just saying, all that was facts. The Lakers definitely got complacent. You could tell LeBron getting that fourth one was big for LeBron. AD getting a ring, that was a big stamp on his career. All these guys, it was like mission accomplished. Anything else that they get after that was going to be a bonus. This team wasn't like, they weren't looking to like create a dynasty or nothing like that. It was like, you know, we have an opportunity to capitalize on the bubble, and they went ahead and capitalized on it. So yeah, man, the Lakers, not the Lake Show, just the shit show. They're a shit show right now. We'll see how they go about it in the offseason. It really looks like there's no way out. It looks like LeBron and AD, it just looks like a disaster right now in Laker land. But we'll see how the Lakers try to flip this. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.